In this video, we'll see how to multiply and divide rational numbers, also known as fractions. And the fractions will be positive and negative, so we got to remember what to do when we multiply by positive and negative numbers as well. First, just a couple of reminders. We're going to change mixed numbers to improper fractions if we need to. So if you ever see mixed numbers, before you multiply and divide, you must change them to improper fractions. And then when we divide, we keep the first fraction the same and we multiply by the reciprocal. We'll see a couple examples of that. And then, just so you know, you can leave your answer as a reduced improper fraction. So by that I mean, if you had an answer, let's say you got 22/8 as your answer. Well, that's an improper fraction because the numerator is bigger than the denominator, but it could be reduced because 2 divides evenly into both of those numbers. 2 goes into 22 11 times and into 8 4 times. So the answer would be 11/4. And you could leave it that way. You don't have to make it a mixed number. Just make sure your improper fraction is reduced. So let's look at the first one. 44/45 times negative 25/32. I know when I've got a fraction or any number right next to a parentheses means I'm going to multiply. I've got a positive times a negative, so my answer is going to be negative. And now I want to see if I can cross reduce anywhere. So I notice that 5 fits into 45 and 25. Goes into 45 9 times and into 25 5 times. I also notice that 4 fits into 44 11 times, and it fits evenly into 32 8 times. So now I'm going to multiply. 11 times 5, that's negative 55, because remember that's a negative 5 that I'm multiplying by, and 9 times 8 is 72. So my answer is negative 55/72. Let's look at a division problem here. When I'm dividing, remember I want to keep the first fraction the same, change the division to multiplication, and I'm going to flip that second fraction. That's when I multiply by the reciprocal. So I've got negative 19/15, keeping that the same, changing division to multiplication, and I'm flipping the second fraction. I'm multiplying by the reciprocal of 7/10, which is 10/7. I've got a negative times a positive, so my answer is going to be negative. And I look to see where I can cross reduce. 5 goes into 10 twice, and it goes into 15 3 times. 19 times 2 is 38. 3 times 7 is 21. This is an improper fraction. It's okay to leave it that way as long as it's reduced, which it is, because there are no numbers that divide evenly into 38 and 21 except for 1. Okay, we're going to look at this next example just to see what to do if you have more than 2 numbers that you're multiplying or dividing. So first thing, I notice these are all regular fractions or improper fractions, no mixed numbers. So I'm going to change my division to multiplication. I'm going to keep the first fraction the same, change division to multiplication, but when I do that, I have to flip 14/15 to 15/14. After that, I've got multiplication, so I'm going to keep that fraction the same. Now I'm going to see where I can cross reduce. So I can cross reduce with this 35 and this 14 because 7 goes into 14 twice and it goes into 35 5 times. I can cross reduce with this 24 and this 15 because 3 goes into 15 5 times and it goes into 24 8 times. And last, I got a choice here. I know 2 divides evenly into 10 and it'll go into 2, or it'll go into 8, and I'm just going to use the 8 just to show that you don't have to have the 2 fractions right next to each other when you cross reduce. So 2 goes into 10 5 times, and 2 goes into 8 4 times. And now, when I multiply, I just want to be careful and make sure I keep track of this one negative that I have here. So I know a negative times a positive, that's going to be negative. Then that negative times a positive, the answer is going to be negative. 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 7 is 56. This is a reduced improper fraction. All right, here's a couple for you to practice on your own. Hit pause, and then after you finish them, hit play, see if we get the same answer. This first one, 24/35 times negative 7/15. Positive times a negative. I know my answer is going to be negative. I'm going to cross reduce. 7 goes into 35 5 times, goes into itself once. 3 goes into 24 8 times, and it goes into 15 5 times. 8 times 1 is 8, and 5 times 5, that's 25. This was negative 8/25. In this next example, I see I've got a bit of division here, so I'm going to change everything to multiplication. Negative 32/35, keep that the same. Change division to multiplication. Flip the fraction. And then I got division again. I'm going to change that to multiplication and flip the fraction. Multiply by the reciprocal. Now I'm going to cross reduce. 16 goes into 16 once. It goes into 32 2 times. 5 goes into 5 once, and 5 goes into 35 7 times. And I can also cross reduce with the 20 and with the 2. 2 goes into 20 10 times, and 2 goes into 2 1 time. And now I can multiply all of these. I've got a negative times a negative, that's positive, and then that positive times a positive is also positive, so the answer for this is going to be a positive fraction. 1 times 9 is 9, and 7 times 1 times 10 is 70. So the answer is 9/70. And that is how you multiply and divide with rational numbers.